President Ramaphosa has just entered phase 3 of his plan with South Africa's biggest business leaders. And this time, it's no longer about emergency fixes. You see, after 2 years focused on stabilizing key pressure points, the focus has now shifted to changing how our economy actually works. So this government business partnership was formed in 2023 to tackle 3 pressure points: energy, logistics, and crime. Now, phase 1 and 2 was focused more on stabilization, keeping the lights on, easing port bottlenecks, and restoring basic confidence. Now, those phases help to reduce load shedding, open up ports and rail to private investors, and it also contributed to South Africa's removal from the FATF grey list. Now, phase 3 is different. The focus here is more on structural improvements, creating a competitive wholesale electricity market, expanding the grid, publishing a clearer roadmap for Eskom's unbundling, and accelerating private sector participation in logistics. Now, crime and corruption have also been elevated from a background issue to a more central economic risk. Now, supporters argue that this is the next logical step, that stabilization without structural improvements only buys time. Now, critics, however, say that phase 1 and phase 2 never fully finished the job. They point to persistent grid constraints, fragile logistics performance, and unresolved questions around Eskom's restructuring, warning that building new market structures on top of incomplete fixes just compounds the old problems. So phase 3 then becomes a test not just of ambition, but whether the foundations are actually solid enough to build on. Now, South Africa has just pulled off one of the greatest comebacks you'll see this year, and honestly, it's up there with Tiger Woods winning the 2019 Masters. If you know, you know. Because after years of lockdowns, closed borders, and a tourism sector on life support, the country has returned some of its strongest numbers ever. Last year, South Africa welcomed over 10.4 million international visitors, more than ever before. And so that doesn't just mark a recovery from COVID, it puts the country above its 2019 tourism peak. But here's where things get interesting. You see, that record wasn't driven by a surge of long-haul tourists flying in from Europe and the US. Most of that growth actually came from regional travel, especially visitors from neighboring SADC countries. Now, overseas arrivals are still below where they were before the pandemic, which means that South Africa broke its all-time tourism record without fully winning back global travelers. And that's what makes this harder to ignore, because that all happened while South African tourism was invisible turmoil. I mean, the board was dissolved, senior executives resigned, levy funds were withheld over governance concerns, and Tourism Minister Patricia de Lille spent much of the year batting away criticism that the country's marketing agency has become its own worst enemy, creating instability where none was needed. And yet, despite all that, our tourism just keeps moving forward. Easier visas, more flights, pent-up demand, and a private sector that largely just got on with it. Our industry now supports around 1.8 million jobs, with roughly 1 job created for every 13 international visitors. And so yes, the comeback is real. The question though is, how much further could this go if tourism wasn't growing in spite of our tourism department, but actually with it? So that's where the country sits on the global stage. But here's where the year landed in your bank account. Most South Africans technically earned more money last year, but it didn't feel that way. Salaries did rise in 2025, but the gains were slim and weirdly uneven. So paying data shows that average pay increases only just stayed ahead of inflation, leaving workers about 0.5% better off in real terms. A second year in a row where salaries technically beat rising prices. Now, the problem is when that improvement actually showed up. You see, as the year went on, inflation started climbing again, and real take-home pay began slipping month to month. So even though the year ended in the green on paper, many households felt more pressure, not less. So looking ahead, economists expect 2026 to bring another year of modest real salary growth. You see, inflation is expected to stay relatively contained. The rand has been stronger than expected, and there is still room for interest rate cuts, all of which help keep pay increases slightly ahead of prices. Now, the catch is how narrow that margin has become. You see, if inflation starts picking up faster than expected, or if companies start tightening their wage increases, those gains could disappear quickly. And so, yes, simply put, salaries are recovering, but they're doing it on a tightrope. And before we cruise on to our bagel bite of the day, here's a couple other headlines worth knowing. For starters, Cape Town wants approval to roll out AR-powered traffic cameras that can spot seatbelt and cell phone offences, but prosecutors still need to sign off after a trial phase exposed at least one wrongful fine. Sasol has issued a precautionary warning about gas supply disruptions from Mozambique after severe flooding damaged infrastructure, which could affect industrial gas flows into South Africa, though supply currently remains stable and customers don't need to change operations just yet. And BMW South Africa has warned that hiking our car import tariffs to 50% could trigger sharp price increases, arguing that it would hurt affordability and local manufacturers, and that rather smart tax tweaks would better support domestic production. And just a quick housekeeping note, in case you missed it, we've launched the 100K challenge on YouTube. And so if we reach 100,000 subscribers by the 1st of September, we'll do whatever the community chooses. Now, the finalists are in and the voting is live. And the options are: run a full marathon dressed as Bagels, hike to the top of South Africa, spend 24 hours alone in a Big 5 game reserve, or have a boxing round against Drickus du Plessis. You can vote on YouTube under the community tab or on our Instagram broadcast channel. We'll lock in the votes on Sunday and announce the winner then. And on to our bagel bite of the day. This is the last one of the work week, so let's end it in the win column. Let's see what you got. The question is, Ivan Pavlov's dog experiments are a famous example of which of the following? A. Classical conditioning, B. operant conditioning, or C. latent learning? We'll give you the answer at the end of the show. It's been said before, but for the most connected generation in history, a lot of people sure feel strangely disconnected. And the data certainly backs it up. I mean, last year, suicide became the leading cause of unnatural deaths among South Africans in their 50s. Not accidents, not violence, but suicide. And a lot of that wasn't just about clinical illness. It was about years of pressure, responsibility, exhaustion, and feeling like you're carrying it all on your own. And so for a lot of people, what actually helps is having a community around them. You know, same people, same place, a shared purpose or common interest. And that's how many friendships actually develop, whether it's a running club, a gym class, a church, or a book club. The point isn't necessarily the activity. It's having something that pulls you out of isolation and out of your head and into regular, healthy human contact. And to you who's watching this, remember, it's January, it's still early. It's a new year, a clean slate, and at least the chance to try something different. So pick one thing, join something, give it time. It may not feel natural immediately, and that's fine. Connection is built slowly, but it's one of the few things that genuinely make the load a heck of a lot lighter. And as for that bagel bite, the answer is classical conditioning. You see, Pavlov showed that behavior can be learned through simple association. And so by ringing a bell every time his dogs were fed, they eventually started salivating at the sound of the bell alone. And so that experiment proved that our brains can link unrelated things together. And once that link is formed, the response can be automatic. And so there it is, classical conditioning. And my friends, that's it for today's show, and that is it for the work week. Again, this is just another reminder. If you haven't done so already, please can I ask that you vote on the poll for that 100K challenge. You'll find that on either YouTube or Instagram, where you can go and choose from those absolutely ridiculous options. Either way, though, I hope you guys have had a great week. Wishing you a rejuvenating weekend, and we'll catch you all on Sunday for the next round of the good stuff. God bless.